Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again for video number... What number is this?
4!
Video number 4 for our Ellie on the AT series. If you're new to this series, this is a recap, just answering some questions that people have of our Appalachian Trail thru hike with our 1-year-old daughter. Ellie was 12 months old when we started. She was a year and a half, 18 months, a year and a half, something like that, when we finished. And so obviously people have a lot of questions about that, how we did diapers, what our schedule was like. In this episode we're going to talk about our sleep system. It goes a little bit into the gear that we used, but also we're going to talk about just the schedule of her sleep and how we managed making sure that Ellie got enough sleep on the trail. So when it came to our system, our sleep system, it took a lot of just figuring out as far as how we were going to do that. The way I describe it is you just need to figure out your philosophy of use. So what exactly are you doing? How old is your child? Are you sleeping with a child? With whatever it is, gear related, just figuring out how you're using it, what your intentions are, what things you value, whether it's price or quality or weight or whatever it is, what are those things you value, and just figure all of that out to determine what you're going to buy so that you don't end up buying something that you end up returning or regretting buying at all. So we took our value of being lightweight, our need to be able to accommodate 3 human beings, and also just comfort and safety and security. We just wanted to be warm and comfortable and not have to worry about that and other factors that go along with sleep. And so over time we came up with the system that we have, and from the beginning we started with this system and we finished with this system. So I think we got this one right as far as that goes. And now bear in mind, we did only sleep in our tent. We were at hostels and stuff on occasion, or motels or something like that, but as far as in the field, in the backcountry, we only slept in our tent. We didn't do shelters. A couple of times we stealth camped in pavilions and whatnot, but mostly we were just in our tent. So,
in regards to the system of how we slept, Ellie slept in between Derek and I. So right now she is being babysat by Derek's brother and his mom, which they're so awesome because we tried doing this video earlier today with her.
This is take 2.
This is take 2. Whew, mercy. As much as we love showing her off to you guys, most of these videos are probably just going to be Derek and I.
Yeah. If you want to see Ellie, go back and look at Instagram.
Yeah. So, so right now we're at Derek's parents' house, and we've been living in their downstairs apartment for the last 5 months since we got off the trail, until our home on wheels is finished. But
it is a van.
Our van, yes. Our van is finished. So, okay, back to Ellie, where she slept. She slept in between Derek and I, so she was right here. In the cold months, that was really awesome because she had body heat on both sides of her, just kind of enveloping her. And that was really awesome for her to have all that warmth around her in the cold months. In the hot months in the summertime, she was definitely like kicking off the sleeping bag because she was getting too warm. But
Kicking me off the sleeping bag.
Yeah, but we never had to worry about her being cold. And then we started co-sleeping with her from the time she was an infant, like newborn day 1. She co-slept with us, and she did that all the way up until now. She still sleeps with us. I was gonna put a deadline on that, but she still ends up in our bed every night. But we're okay with that because it meant we could sleep comfortably in one tent, all on one bed together. And so that's okay with us.
It minimized the amount of gear we had to take by all sleeping together.
Yeah, and definitely co-sleeping is something you should look up on your own and research because there are really safe ways to co-sleep with your baby. So, but you definitely want to look those ways up first before you just jump into it.
Yeah, this probably isn't something that you want to go from sleeping in totally separate rooms at home to going into the backcountry and sharing a tent and a sleeping pad with your baby. Like we talked about in a previous episode, this is something, again, going from front country to backcountry lifestyle is something that you want to ease into. and do gradually so that yourself and your baby aren't shocked when it comes time to go to bed. And you're trying to do that, and it's a disaster. We've read disaster stories. The Trek posted one
It's
while we were on
sad.
our thru hike, and it just really broke our hearts.
Yeah,
I didn't know
sad.
how to respond or how to reply, but it was just such a sad story of an epic failure of a family trying to take their son out on a backpacking trip, and it just failed miserably when it came time to sleeping. And we felt really bad about that, so hopefully you guys can take some of this information, gradually insert it into your lives, and have a successful experience in the backcountry with your babe.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing about Ellie sleeping in between is she almost always wore her base layers, which were made by Ella's wool, and she wore those base layers to sleep almost every night. They were like her pajamas. She wore them in the day a lot too, but that kept her body temperature regulated really well while she slept in between us.
In the beginning, when it was really, really cold, we had some nights that got down into the low 20s. In those nights, we kept Ellie in her down bunting. It's a full head-to-toe suit. And honestly, she was hot. I think there were multiple
really
nights
hot.
that we were stripping that off of her in the very beginning. We were so worried about it being so cold and keeping her warm. But that first week on the trail, when it was getting down into the 20s, we started May 20th, so it was still pretty cold here in Virginia. We did carry an extra sleeping bag. So again, in your philosophy of use, figuring out what you're doing and weather and terrain and all of those things, that's something to factor into, is what exactly do I need as far as the temperature rating. So we determined the first week that we needed an extra quilt to go over our system in order that everybody stayed warm. After the first week, we were constantly, thankfully, technology is good enough that we were constantly able to look at the weather forecast and see what was coming, see what was ahead. And after a week, we said, okay, we don't need this anymore, and we were able to send that home, and we were close enough to do that, so that was really nice. But as far as the rest of our system goes, it was the same from start to finish, and I'll go into that a little bit. So for years, Becca and I had both used the Therm-a-Rest NeoAir sleeping pads. Our entire system, mind you, is Therm-a-Rest. One nice thing about sticking with one company is that it all fits well together, and it was concise and a nice sealed package. That'll make sense when I get further into it. But if you mix and match, Enlighten gear or Enlighten equipment or whatever it is with a Therm-a-Rest, it might not be the exact same cut, and so you might get airflow between your pad and your sleeping bag. But we used 2 Therm-a-Rest NeoAir sleeping pads. We didn't want to do foam because we both sleep on our sides, and the NeoAir, having worked in the outdoor retail industry and tried a lot of pads out, the Therm-a-Rest NeoAir is really the only one that I can side sleep on and still sleep comfortably. So we had 2 of these, and we had the large as well. So those are about 5 inches wider. The extra length doesn't really benefit us because we sleep on our side sort of curled up anyways, but they are a little bit longer, about 7 inches longer, I think. But it was really the width that did it for us. So we didn't necessarily go ultra light in this area, but they're still fairly light. But we did the large ones so that essentially when you put our 2 large pads together, we were a couple inches short of a queen bed. Like, it was a really
nice.
big system. So we had a large pad laid next to a large pad, and then we used what is called the Therm-a-Rest Synergy Coupler. This is actually a product that, even having worked in the industry, it's not something that I had seen before. I had seen like straps that you can use to attach 2 pads and make one pad essentially, but this was clutch. This was awesome. It's basically a silk sheet that goes over both of your sleeping pads and makes them one. So if you feel, you can feel a gap between the pads, but you can't really fall between. And since Ellie was sleeping there, it was nice that this sheet was covering the gap between the pads, and it held them together really, really closely. And then on top of all of that, literally and figuratively, we were using a Therm-a-Rest quilt, the Vela HD Double Quilt. It's down, so basically you have your pads, the coupler on top of the pads, and then the quilt snaps around the perimeter of the coupler. So you've got one really nice package that I said was almost the size of a queen bed. And because these are made to be used in conjunction with one another, there was a nice seal around the perimeter of the quilt, and there's a baffle on the side of the quilt too that sort of blocks wind. But we were really comfortable throughout our entire through hike with this. The nice thing about the quilt is that you can easily, throw it off of a side of you if you want, but then also if you needed to, you could snap it down. It is rated 35 degrees for men and 45 degrees for women. It's not often that you see a difference in rating, but in this case, this one does have that. What we found is that I think that rating is probably, I don't have any proof or support of this, Therm-a-Rest, chime in if you want, but I think that rating is for a single person, because we were never cold. Even below 35 degrees after we ditched our second quilt, we were never cold. With two adult bodies and one small child body, we were always really warm, and really comfortable too. Like I said, even in the summer, throw a little bit off of you and you're comfortable. But I highly recommend this system. We're not sponsored by Therm-a-Rest, so don't get that impression. A lot of people will rant and rave about their sponsors, but they didn't sponsor us. We bought this stuff outright, and we loved using this equipment, and we will continue to use it. One thing I will say about Cascade Designs, which is the company that Therm-a-Rest falls under, they are really, really good about customer service as well. So I've had great experience in the industry working with them, and even at one point we had a valve that malfunctioned on our sleeping pad, and I didn't want them to send me a new pad, but while they may have done that if I had asked, I wanted to know how to fix it because of our circumstances in the field. These particular pads needed to be inflated. It wasn't like we could go a few days before getting to a package. I needed to know how to fix it. They hooked us right up there, like, this is the glue you want to use, this is how you want to prep it, and they did a really good job of supporting us in that way.
One thing to note also is all of the links to purchase these items or look at them more in depth are in the description of the video below. So make sure you check those out and click on it. And anytime you click on the links below, it also helps us out too. So they're affiliate links, and so if you are looking to purchase them and if this was helpful for you, we'd love for you to purchase them through that link. There is one con to having this system, and that's the amount of time that it takes to blow them up and deflate them. And so for a lot of thru hikers, the time just isn't worth it because you could be using that time to make miles during the day. But for our situation, it was worth it. And there were definitely some nights where we really didn't feel like blowing up the pads, but then when we got
laid on the ground till we blew them up. We blew them up, but at first it was just like, let's just lay down.
Yeah, so we always blew them up at night, but Ellie having a good night's rest and us having a good night's rest, it was always worth having the extra cushion of the pad. As far as Ellie's sleep schedule goes, babies are supposed to have, in general, about 12 to 14 hours of sleep at her age, from the ages of 12 to 18 months. And so Ellie wasn't going to be getting that with an adult sleep schedule at night because Derek and I were getting anywhere from 8 to 10 hours at nighttime on the trail. And so the way that she made up for that was during the day, during her naps. Ellie made up for her sleep during the night, not getting enough for a baby. She made up for those with her naps. And so during the day, she would sleep in her backpack a lot. So we never took separate times on our breaks or setting up the tent or a hammock, anything like that for her nap time. In fact, when we were working our hardest on the trails, when she was taking her naps. And so that way when we stopped for our break, that was time for her to get out and play and stretch and get to move around. And she had a really cushy pillow in her backpack. I can't say enough good things about the Deuter Kid Comfort 3 backpack, especially because it has this really thick pillow on the front of it where she could just lay her head down on anytime she wanted to, and that was really comfortable for her to sleep in. And she sits kind of low in the pack, and so the cushion really was at head level, and so she was never straining her head or neck to be able to lay down to take that nap.
And it's removable. The pillow is removable and you can throw it in the wash.
We had to wash it many times.
If you can imagine sleep and drool and chocolate and cookie residue and all snot, all sorts of things. It was gross. It got crusty.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was stinky. It was nasty. So then when it came time for her nighttime sleep, she did wake up in the middle of the night still. And that was one thing that we battled with from the beginning to the end. But there was no way to technically sleep train her like a lot of families do to get their child to sleep through the night. When you're sleeping beside mom and dad, you're just going to wake up next to them when you're that little as a baby. So what we would do is I would just nurse her on demand in the middle of the night when we were near people. So if we were camping near a shelter or just tenting near somebody else, it was just, all right, time to nurse you, because I do not want to wake up any thru hikers. It's not fair to them because they've worked really hard all day, and I don't want them to be kept awake at night by a baby crying. And it was a sure way that I knew that I could calm her down, and so I would just nurse her. No matter how many times it took for me to have to nurse her in the middle of the night, it's what I did. And Derek would do what he could, but...
I tried.
Just doesn't work the same.
I offered my nipple many times, and she just wouldn't take it. Doesn't work the same. She knows the difference.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. But, like Becca said, we were super conscious of other thru hikers around us, trying not to wake them up. And there were even a couple times where we did have a bit of a rough night, and I would go over to the guys in the morning or the girls in the morning and say, I'm sorry. She was kind of loud, and they were like, we didn't even hear her. So as parents, we were hyper aware of Ellie and her noises, but most of the time, thru hikers were zonked. They never even noticed. I think we were probably woken up by more thru hikers than thru hikers were awakened by us. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
What's next?
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. That's it.
That's it. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. I'm sure we didn't cover everything, so please do feel free to ask us a question in the comments below. We're happy to answer those and help you guys however we can. Follow us on Instagram at The Dirtbag Baby. Like and subscribe to this video, please. We're trying to do more of these, and the more you guys can support us, the more it helps us feed content to you. So we like doing this. It's
and if
fun.
these videos are totally lame, tell us that too.
Yeah, please. If these are lame, say y'all are terrible, and we'll just get Ellie on.
We're new to this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching.